If there was ever a day that the president can come, I say that I have come to you, my people,
now
as the son of the land. I know tomorrow I will not be president, but I want to leave an eternal legacy with you.
Thank you so much,
Let
Prof.
us sit down and talk. Not to those people, but to the hoi polloi.
This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio.
19 minutes after 7. Karibu sana. Tuko kwa MVP report. We are very proud to say that we are hanging out with Professor GWADA OGOT Maze. And of course he's an activist and a Pan-African. Leo tunaongea story ya political standoffs and maandamano. So Kev, tuanze na magazeti as is usually the case. Wanasema nini hapo hivyo kwa The Standard?
Nachiki The Standard mazime imerize The Standard ikaanza kwanza na kushukishia watu bei. Kwa paper sai Kenya inaenda na 60 bob, Tanzania is 1700 and Uganda is 2700. Na the front page mazina says power is temporary. Uhuru tells Ruto. Table stand in a candid interview, former president say he wonders why the current administration is going after him and his family in spite of handing over power in peace and retiring. He says government should focus on working for the people. Alafu neza find your story yote kwa page 5, 6 and 7. Alafu kuna hiyo ingine hapo inasema Kenyans pay price of protests with court dates. From MPs to ordinary citizens, many were arraigned in courts yesterday for trouble emanating from the recent protests against high cost of living and new taxes. Find the same story unaifind hapo kwa page 10 and 11. Hapo kuloko sema hao wanaongelewa ni akina mabloga kama akina Pauline Njoroge, Mathare MP Anthony Oluoche, former Mungiki leader Maina Njenga, and Kilifi County Assembly Speaker Teddy Mwabiri. Afu mali menibamba bro. Ni hapo pa Financial Standard inasema food prices start to drop.
Yep.
Unasikia hapo food prices start to drop as harvesting begins.
So that's a good sign.
Hiyo iko fit
hapo. Kwa sababu ya the weather.
Manze, although mvua ikunyesha viloto kwa na expect, wanalia food ndio itakuwa imeanza kushuka bei, but si vile sana, but at least imeanza kushuka. Alafu
pia Prof najua pia uko na Standard hapo hivyo. Mimi niko na Daily Nation, they're saying Uhuru, my problem with Ruto. In wide-ranging interview, the former, just like the Standard, the former president reveals the power struggle that led to his parting of ways with the man who would later succeed him. How the ghosts of the Hague slowed him down, why he feels dishonored by the current regime, and why, despite all the drama, he still considers Ruto his president. So this isn't much blood. Prof, what do you think is going on between the former president and our current president? And surely, is it that bad? Awakona bad blood? Because we've never seen anything like this, where a former president has, for lack of a better word, been put in the corner, bullied, shaken. That's how I see it.
Okay. Thank you very much. First and foremost,
yes,
I'd like to say that I speak as a prophet. Not as a professor. Professorship is proof of your capacity to consume knowledge.
True.
Not proof of your capacity to produce knowledge. That's why most of the people who have the title professor cannot account for it through any patent or copyright or intellectual property rights.
True. Makes sense.
Yeah, you cannot be an academic father without having an acamic product that you have your own.
Exactly. And I know uko na book hapa tunaenda kupitia, but we'll talk about your book.
This is my third book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the Cannabis Testament is my third book.
The Great Light of Canaan.
Yes, the first one, the first book was called The Push for Executive Term Limits in Africa, 2012. The second one was called Luo Great Light of Nations, an 800-page book that had most of the things Uhuru and Raila were doing were from that book, and a bit of even what Ruto was doing you can trace back to that book. This is the third book, and there's several others coming that are lined up and ready for publication. Back to your question. You may realize that the politics has become very personalized, which is not good. We should be debating ideas. We should be debating, we should be having disagreements at ideological level rather than at personal level.
True.
And the personalization of politics has brought lots of emotions and is also having a lot of negative ethnic impact on the country. When about 60, 70 years after independence, we are still struggling to identify as a nation rather than as our ethnicities, then we're going the wrong way. Between Ruto and Uhuru is a long history of conflict, friendship, and unfortunately the personal exigencies between the two have now begun to start impacting on the direction of the nation. A presidency is a symbol of national unity and national compromise. A president should be viewed as somebody who represents all of us, irrespective of who we are.
True.
I, as a member of the Luo community, must feel very comfortable in President Ruto's government.
True.
He must be my president.
Of course, yeah.
When Uhuru was president, he had to be my president. When Kibaki was president, he had to be my president. Equally, to even those of the big Rastaman constituency or the Marijana constituency in Kenya today, the same presidency must also represent us. We must feel comfortable in it. We must feel heard. We must feel catered for. And I think it is important that between the two gentlemen, they should find a resolution to their problems at a personal level to let the nation move. And why do I say this? Because if you remember during the last election, there was over 7 million Kenyans who didn't vote.
True.
And I think that number has now multiplied. I think between these two parties that are fighting, there is a bigger number of people in between who do not want to get on with the fight. They want things done straight.
Really?
They want things done on the table, and they just want to move on with their
So because of that, should the former president quit active politics? Because it seems like bado engaged. What wanasema, especially from the government side, they're saying he's actually funding the opposition. We've seen how also the former president alikuwa anasema Raila is his leader.
Yes.
So should he quit active politics? Kwa sababu the government is very concerned. They're worried. They're disturbed by his presence, in the scene.
I think one of the biggest things about Uhuru is probably he's one of Kenya's, or if not Kenya's, wealthiest man. And I think what any government would probably be very worried about is somebody who has that amount of resources at his disposal, and beyond the finance at his disposal, the economic interests, and also at a lot of good, a fair chunk of support from his ethnicity and the nationwide. Okay. It would be wrong for me to say that he should retire from politics, because really, what is politics?
Clearly.
Yes, politics is simply participation in division of national resources, contributions to it. People come together to try and forge together common interests to pursue division of resources and exploitation of resources in the country at a premium.
Okay.
That's why one of the key issues you keep finding in politics is resources, development, money. It's about resources. It's about human resource. That's why we say we want people who have sharp brains to lead us in politics.
Exactly.
It's about it's about division of resources. Or muko kwa serikali munakula. It's about resources. I'm going to campaign. How much money? Is there a limitation on how much money should be used in the campaign? It's all about resources.
And the conversation never stops.
Never stops. And anybody who participates in how resources should be divided and who feels that there's a better way in which these resources should be divided is a politician. Now, the only difference you should ask is should he engage in competitive politics? Does he want to run himself another day? The constitution doesn't bar him. He could one day say he wants to run again.
True.
Yeah. So really, it's probably the manner of participation rather than the participation. Everybody is a politician until they die.
Oh, so Muhesh, Professor Mheshimiwa. Okay, on your take, manze, as a professor, manze, the way you're talking, as a prophet on this professional. Your take, manze, about this mandamano. We know it's the right of everyone to picket.
Yes.
Yeah? But do you think we, as the Kenyan youth, are we doing it the right way?
I want to speak about Mandamano a bit from a historical perspective. Probably regime by regime. The first time, Moso being born and bred in Kisumu, yes, I will stay in Nairobi, but really home is Kisumu. The first time this happened was in 1969. when there was a massive shooting of people during the personal clash between Oginga and Kenyatta one.
The elder.
Yes. That is the first time we had a big problem about a mandamano gone sour, or a direct conflict between police and citizenry, and a lot of people died. And for me, it also was personal, because after that, my father was one of the people detained when they were rounding up ex-KPU members, or members of the Kenya People's Union then, and spent detention in several years in detention, sorry. Subsequently, the next came in after Kenyatta was Moi, during the multi-party engagements, and probably the peak of it again was after the death of Ouko. There was a lot of demonstrations for multi-party democracy, and in terms of personal conflict or engagements, probably the worst of this happened during the time when Ouko died. There were huge demonstrations in Kisumu, and the nature of violence that was meted out to the residents then of Obunga and Nyawita is a story that will be told to children under a mango tree. It's painful. Indeed, very painful. It has not, it's painful. Then after Moi, during these seasons, the next stage was the Kibaki government. The Kibaki government did not have a lot of, it was not, there was very little emotional drive around the Kibaki's government. Kibaki is a rare politician who operated under a code of an aura of silence.
Yeah, true.
He let things work. You didn't know what he was thinking, really. And at one point, you remember, Raila said in frustration, this man is a boo-boo.
Apparently walikuwa nasema hakuwa anapenda mdomo mingi, siasa mingi.
And I think that helped to calm the political temperatures in the country. And I don't recall a serious mandamano or conflict then between Kibaki's government and the people that was massive in scale. Then the next stage I would speak of is during the Uhuru Kenyatta government, which is Kenyatta 2. There was a very serious conflict that resulted in the death of Baby Pendo and a lot of things that happened in Kisumu. And I speak about this as somebody who was born in Nyalenda, just 20 meters from Baby Pendo's home.
Throw away.
I know the father, I know the mother, we know each other, we grew up together. And even the current violence that you're speaking about, the target is Nyalenda, and that is my home. And I also speak about these things because I come from a political family in Kisumu and Nyanza. My family has been involved in politics, and I told you my father was one of the people who was detained post the skirmishes of 1969. I was the youth chairman of Kisumu district during the Ford Kenya days of Jaramogi.
Prof, I'll have to cut you short. Let's take a short break. I'll have to leave some bills, and then we come back. Talk about the impact of mandamano from way back until now. Should we be looking at this thing, re-strategize it? Because there's so much death and destruction. All right, guys, kumbuka, MVP report is going down right here on #Morning Vibes with Kevin Kevo Badman. Where's Kilia up if we don't move?
This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio.
104.5 Vibes Radio, Morning Vibes with Kevin Kevo Badman. MVP reporting go down, and we're hanging out with the one and only, the amazing, the vibrant Professor GWADA OGOT, actually prophet Pia. Prophet. GWADA OGOT is an activist and a Pan-African, a great thinker as well, politician Pia. Ama?
Yes, I am.
As long as we talk family politics.
Exactly. So we're talking about political standoffs, mandamano, and then we're also going to be talking about his book, The Cannabis Testament, The Great Light of Canaan. No, Prof, bouncing off that question, Kiva amekuuliza hapo hivyo about mandamano and whether we're going towards the right direction. You've really given us a history of mandamano. We're still talking about it kutoka hizo days at 1969. We remember the bloodbath ili happened pale Kisumu, herocides. It was crazy. And so mi nakuuliza too, Prof, because if you listen to what the police are saying, destruction up and Donoma, they're actually armed youth who are causing mayhem. You said we had over here nominated Senator Gloria, UDA Senator, what's the
Gloria?
Yes, Senator Gloria Robas. I keep forgetting. And she told us how the police the police are justified to use excessive force because the youth are armed and they're out here not to picket but to endanger the lives of Kenyans. So mina kuuliza Prof, what's going on? Because what's your assessment? The police are saying hapana, hiki endelea, watu wanaribu vitu. The opposition and Kenyans are saying it is our right. Has the constitution been suspended for now? Na hii based on this maandamano maneno?
No, I think nobody or no single political party can suspend the constitution. Everybody has a right to picket. Even an engine that you have must have an exhaust where people can vent. That is why there's opportunities for citizens to picket, to write petitions to the president, to present them to parliament or to any authority. That is a right that cannot be taken away. But again, that personalized form or the personalized approach to politics, the heightened tensions and emotions. You can hear the way people are talking. Everybody is posturing as the toughest guy. And nobody is giving it thought that this thing, yes, it is happening now based on what we may consider current circumstances, but it also has a history. And that history, we have seen it. The pain of it.
Exactly.
The pain that people are going through in Kisumu today. The pain that people are going, the loss of confusion across the country and confusion. People do not know what to do. People do not know what to say. And one of the worst things that you can find yourself in is to lead a terrified citizenry.
Now, speaking of the past, Prof, sorry to cut you short. Tumona pia, I remember back in the day, opposition leaders walikuanga constantly intimidated, arrests, some walipotea. Now we also seen cases where opposition leaders wanasema their lives are threatened. Speaking of mambo ya assassination, what could the impact be? I remember back then, the impact was crazy. There was so much anarchy. What could the impact be right now? Ukusikia watu kina Raila and guys saying our lives are in danger.
Now, for me, it could be true. But again, it's not specific to them. I lived in Uganda for 7 years during the Raila Uhuru. I was taken out by the Kenya National Human Rights Commission when I survived an abduction attempt in the city. I was rushed out and fled to Uganda, and I lived there I couldn't come back home. And who was in power? Uhuru and Kibaki and Raila, when Raila was prime minister. So really, they're speaking because now the foot is in the other boot. But we must look at it broadly. Let us not even bring the personal experiences, but let us say that this is a shared experience. I mean, not everybody goes screaming about it.
True.
I have lived out of the country for 8 years, minus
Miguna
my family.
style.
Miguna style. I know what I went through. And the pain of it is that having been for a long time at the forefront of fighting for this so-called democracy. Democracy is a mirage. Democracy is an illusion.
Really?
Democracy is an illusion.
In the African context or generally in
Generally, where has it succeeded? In the US, where it came from. Has it succeeded?
Yes.
The blacks are still trodden upon.
You keep on saying the same thing.
I've been telling my friend the same thing from way back.
See, in the construction of language, there is what you call the host morpheme. The word democracy is based, the host morpheme is dem. That's the host morpheme of demon.
Wow.
That's the host morpheme of demonic. Of demagogue.
Bro.
I mean,
nilikwambiaje?
Ulikuwa nasema the exact thing.
Democracy.
Yes.
And that's why we're happy to have Prof here.
Yes.
Prophet, go on.
We may be chasing a mirage in chasing democracy. Number 2 is the construction of our constitution. Our constitution was a British Westminster model that was superimposed on an African context that simply pitted two antagonistic sides. Landowners and workers, or the haves and the have-nots. But Kenya is a commonwealth of ethnic groups. We cannot have an antagonistic two sides. We are trying to create the constitution is what is creating the fight between the haves and the have-nots.
So you're saying the problem here is our governance model.
Our governance model is wrong.
It's never going to work.
We brought in, it's like going to import, going to bring the Zulu content, posing it on the Kikuyu.
It won't work. It won't work.
Hey.
It cannot work.
So what's the solution moving forward?
In regard to political violence, let us have a commission of inquiry where people can come and speak freely and say what they know. The context may come out very differently. Let us identify the key players. Let us identify the context around which it happened. Let us identify the regimes around which it happened and who is the beneficiary of these things.
So moving forward, do you support some sort of dialogue in the form of, especially now based on Izima crisis in Endelea, by partisan talks? How should we go about it? Because the people who are saying, especially when you were allied to the government, wanataka ikuwe parliament. But there are other people who are saying, no, this is an all-inclusive affair. Wakenya wote wanafaa kuko kwa hiyo talks.
Mapasta.
I don't know what do you think about this?
Yes, we need, of course, it is always right to talk. And the basis of governance is listening and speaking to each other. You listen and you speak. Right now, let's say that people are listening, and in between the listening and talking, there's very little thought because there's a lot of emotion being spewed out. That is number one. Number two, at the presidency level, the key word that always comes, or that you're taught by conventional wisdom, is that the president must always cool down the tempo of the day. He's the one, when people are fanning, he must be the one bringing it down. It's like the father, because if he loses his head,
he's the face.
we lose our head. If he keeps his calm, we keep our calm. So he has a different responsibility at the presidential level in this regard. But there is need to get down to brass tacks in this thing about political debts. Right now, we are caught up in a situation where there is so much mourning and bloodshed on the ground that you don't even know where to start sending condolences. We've been sending condolences. If I gave you the list of political violence and the number of deaths that have been involved from the days of Rashid Mzee in Kisauni to All Saints Cathedral in the 90s, to Jimvaji Gardens in the 90s, to Webuye, Sambu, it's a long history. It's a long history. So we may need to look at this thing from a deeper perspective.
Okay.
And to also know that generally we all have a right to be here. There is nobody who is here by default. And even if you're a father and you have children, you might have different characters from about your children. You cannot handle the same all the children you cannot have a uniform answer or a uniform agenda for all your children that say I will handle you guys this way.
It's impossible.
You might find one who is a footballer, the other one is a rugby player, the other one is a musician,
another one a nerd.
So the president must bring us together.
Prof, from your assessment, unadhani tunarudi back to the authoritarian old days?
It appears so, because the reaction so far has been very, very emotional and violent. And that's a scary thing. There is those people who are simply saying, there's a lot of people who are simply saying, truly, the circumstances in which you are living is overbearing. It's too heavy, the burden. They have a genuine cause. But then, you've also seen that with time, there has also been the penetration of demonstrations by certain elements who may cause, because in the days, I organized a lot of demonstrations in the 90s in Kisumu and Nairobi. But the issue of destruction wasn't that much. It wasn't that much. We would picket, do our things, go back home in the evening. You get chased by police here and there, jump over a few fences, run away into exile for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It would all come down. But the level at which it has reached, where there is actually little regard for the sacrosanct of life, then we need to talk a little.
Prof,
and I do not want to heap too much blame on the police act on instructions. The police act on instructions. If
to kill, to use excessive force.
Now the question is, what instructions were they given?
Exactly,
That's what I would question. But I cannot also deny the protesters their right to protest. And I say this speaking as somebody who is not involved in Azimio, and I'm not involved in UDA.
Which is good, but Prof,
I'm just a Kenyan who wants things done the right way.
Why is the president finding it hard? Mbona prezo amekata kukondem mapolisi vile wanatumia excessive force before? We even saw it atoi mazem, mtoi wa 13 years old ameshutiwa. Why can't the president condemn the police? Nayo ni kazi yao. I mean, the police, they're supposed to be acting professionally. Kama hawafanyi kazi, you're supposed to be castigated in the hope that you will do better next time there's some sort of demonstration. Why is he... Why does he... I don't know. Why doesn't he want to condemn them?
He won't. You see, the role of the police in governance is very critical to their survival, to government survival. And even before that, during the time that the violence happened in Kisumu earlier, when Kina Baby Pendo, and there was a lot of the things that happened in Kisumu, in Nyalenda, rape of men, sodomization, killing of Baby Pendo. What did Uhuru say at that time? He didn't apologize. He thanked the police for doing a good job.
Just like Ruto
Just like President Ruto has done today.
Yeah, true.
So we are looking at something that we need to look a little back, get from the back, moving forward. But the most painful thing is the number of women who are weeping, the number of children who are weeping, the level of destruction done. You need to live in there to know what it feels.
Really?
And many people do not know that when they see people walking around here, they do not know the wounds and the scars that we carry in our hearts about what is going
Generational
on.
trauma.
By the way, it's a trauma.
Yeah.
It's deep, you know.
So Pro, on your side, on your side, as you took mambo ya maandamano. Do you think we are still on the right track? As in, is this the only way we should go about it?
More pressure.
We can apply a lot of pressure. And we must apply a lot of pressure as a constitutional right. But the manner in which this pressure is guided is important, and the reaction from the state. Sincerely, you cannot use a mallet to kill a mosquito. And I sincerely believe that if the president went out of his way and said, I want to talk to you guys, even if it meant coming to Kisumu, I have something to tell you. I want to speak with you. I have come to you as your brother. I want to speak with you. And you know the only thing he can do with us and do to the people in Kisumu? To speak. That's why we are speaking here. The radio, the TV, the newspaper, the books are all about speech, the words.
True that.
I want to speak to you. I have something to tell you. People will listen.
All right, shikilia hapo hivyo. #morning vibes. Guys, we're hanging out with Professor GWADA OGOT. It's been great.
Noma.
Remember, he's also a prophet, an activist, and a Pan-African. Na tunaongea story ya political standoffs and maandamano. As is the routine. Tupigia simu 0719012700. You can react to the stories on the newspaper. Ama pia unaweza comment or you can ask Prof a question. Story maandamano maze. Prof is open-minded. He also has a book by the tunaenda kuongea story in a bit. It's called The Cannabis Testament. The Great Light of Canaan. Yeah, kwa hivyo tupigie simu 0719012700. We call this the MVP report. Na pia tungependa kujua stories zote zinachachisha kwa ground. Let's start with Kiguru. Good morning, bro.
Yeah. Wagwan.
Fiti babalao.
Nasikia kwa mko na prophet.
Manze, unamsikia professor.
Unaweza kusalimia mazee na kugeta alafu tupe hapo comment ama swali.
Unajua tunakoga na bishop. That meongeza prophet.
Exactly, Buddha. A true Rasta African.
Kitu inanibamba. Ni hivyo venye anatufaitia sisi kawa Rasta. Unaona sasa kama hii slogan yetu yenye tunasemanga aje? Normalize it and they will no longer abuse it. So unaona itakuwa na effect, si ndio?
That makes sense.
Alafu umchezea gani? Owen Gray, feeling high.
Owen Gray, feeling high.
So high.
Big up. Question or comment, bro? Oh, that was it. Asante sana. Vibes Radio, good morning.
Vibes Radio, good morning.
Good morning. Pate energy, bro. Unaitwa nani?
Leon
Kevo Meru. Big up, tuko na Prof hapa hivi. Uko na swali ama comment?
So mimi naona hiyo maandamano kaa inawekwa kama kesho si hakuna maandamano ni maombolezi. Hiyo maombolezi zipita maandamano irundi tena watu wakufa tena siku nyingine hakuna maandamano ni maombolezi.
Ni maombolezi sawa. Chalo kutoka Likoni, good morning.
Good morning Kevo, ni aje?
We good. Salimia Prof.
Prof.
Karibu, asante.
How are you, my friend?
I am well, my brother. How are you?
I'm good. I've been following the discussion from the very first moment mlianza.
Yes.
And you are a true definition of a leader.
Thank you.
I wish we had 100+ like you, bwana. Kama kuna msame kusikiza the way you've been talking and explaining things, that's how leadership should be.
Thank you.
You umedefine ukatuonyesha penye tulitoka, how these things have been and how where we are, how they are going. Unapata story ni ile tu.
The more things change, the more
like
stay the same.
Given a chance to lead this country, people like you, lakini unapata sisi wananchi sijini la IBC inafaa to educate how to vote on leaders. We don't know how to vote surely Kenyans. We don't know how to piga kura. So you are a true definition of a leader. And I just want to give you a compliment. Thanks for coming. And Kevo, how do wageni na famulete sasa?
You know, tunajua sisi vile tunacheza hii game. We know where we are going. Asante sana Chalo. Let's talk to Mana Driller. Good morning, bro.
Ule mbaya.
Ule mbad.
Ndio.
Karibu sana.
Straight out of North Rift, by the way.
Prof anakusikiza.
Mimi Prof Rada, you good?
Thank you, I am.
Welcome. Mimi ndio ule mbaya, sawa?
Karibu.
Tambui gava. So mimi sijiongelea siasa. Kevo jana asubuhi nilikuwa nimewaona. Nikawaambia ile story ya soko, bora ulipigia koti moja kisha kuramba. Sasa jana wa soko walituletea lori mzima ya kanjo, hakuna kutandika. Kutoka pale Paul mpaka Union. Sijui ati mwenye Bookland akakuweka inirode
parking,
unaona? Mimi niliwaambia tu bora ulipigia koti moja mzee kisha kuramba mpaka 2027.
It's so sad, man.
Itabadilika.
Hiyo iwezi Kevo, iwezi badilika tu. Kisha waone Kevo, kitawaramba bana, wakusikia ona.
It's very sad, man.
Alafu Kevo. Niko na message kwa watu wote walipiga kura worldwide.
Yes, briefly.
Briefly. Hata mimi nilikuwa mzee wa baba kia. Sasa hivi vile kuko fadhali ombe Ruto jendi atakuwa na sisi for the next 5 years. Na kama inauma mimi siwezi kusaidia.
Alright.
Jota mimi sina pesa, tunaenda kutafuta pesa. Tutafute pesa majamaa.
Exactly. Money is the motive. Asante sana. Vibes Radio, good morning. Hello. Yo bro, atukupati. Hello. Yo, naje Heno?
Katenje, punguza katenje jo bro.
Ni blondi.
Sasa unasemaje bro? Teke tuko na Prof hapa hivi, comment ama swali?
Gotea Prof hapo.
Amegoteka.
Nimereceive.
So nilikuwa nataka kuuliza aje, kwani sisi hakuna siku tunaweza kaa chini tuongea legitimate nini? Hatuwezi kaa chini tuongee kitu legit, yani to man up.
Manze.
Juu sasa inaonekana the direction you're heading as a country is not a good one.
Exactly. Too much ego, too much competition. Manze, saidia sana Heno. Prof, maybe we can start there.
Yeah.
Why can't we talk, yani Manze Jo? Yani, as in, briefly, before we talk about the book, why can't our leaders sit down and talk? I know there's the importance of having an opposition na saidi serikali. Lakini pia Wakenya wanasema, you know what, we don't even care about that model of governance, like you had mentioned earlier. Tunataka muonge for the sake of public interest. We want to just thrive and take care of our friends and our family. Mbona Manze hatuwezi kaa chini tuonge? What's so hard? This is a small country, a third world country.
If you recall, we have had 2 big talks in the country. The first big talk was the Lancaster Conference.
True.
People sat down and spoke. And that caused a transition. The second big talk was the Bomas Conference that subsequently led to the new constitution.
The one with the
Yash Palgai team and that team. That talk is what brought a new constitution.
True.
Now, when you're saying we need to talk, all we need to define who's speaking.
Wow.
On behalf of who?
Yes. You see, in those situations, for example, right now, there is a very strong Rastafarian community in this country that from opinion polls could number up to about 7 million.
Yes.
Will they be included in the table?
That's a good question.
You know, the government does not speak for them. Azimio does not speak for them, has played politics with their lives.
Does Wajakoya speak for them?
No, Wajakoya does not speak for us.
Does not speak for
No,
us.
he's not a true Rasta. That one I'm quoting because he told me himself, I am not a Rasta.
Wow.
He
admitted it.
To me, I asked him, boss, the people who are fighting for legalization are fighting because they're coming from a position of stigmatization. They have been suppressed, oppressed, depressed in so many ways, and they are so isolated. First from the hairstyle, madredi ya watu wa dredi watu wataki.
Bangi ya.
Wakiongea mafuta bangi wanakuja kusema nini? Bangi has been discredited, demonized. Yet when we look at the Holy Bible, there is not a single verse in the Bible that demonizes it. But these people cannot speak. Who will speak for us?
Probably no one anytime soon.
And that's why I'm asking.
And people thought, a lot of people thought Wajakoya was on their side.
No, he's not.
But Prof, maybe this is your time. This is your time, Prof.
Yeah,
clearly.
A lot of people they're feeling it right now.
And you know what, Prof? This is where this book comes now. We're sharing our stories. We're looking at things from different contexts and angles. The Cannabis Testament, the great light of Canaan. Talk about this book. What inspired it for you to write this book, and what is it about?
One is the experiences I have had from leading the legalization process in Kenya from about 2014 are the ones that led me to write this book.
Okay.
I realized that one, we needed to do a lot of teaching, public education, which in the initial stages we did so much to a point where the people who identify with Rasta or who identify with cannabis could actually now speak in public on public forums like this and on TV.
From a knowledge point of view.
From a knowledge point of view. Initially it was anathema.
Okay.
You could not speak. Then I realized that we got to a position where there was a block. And I thought the only way, since we had no reference point, was to put a book down, so that we have a reference point that can give us a bit of history, give us a bit of light on what's going on and why and all these things. So I put this book together. Then my experience also with the Roots Party, I campaigned for the Roots Party.
Yeah, we saw you were aggressively campaigning for the Roots Party.
At the end of it all, I only asked one question. Why didn't we have civic candidates? Why didn't we have parliamentary candidates? Why didn't we have any candidate except Wajakoya? We didn't even have an agent.
Response ilikuwa gani vile uliuliza?
And there are no answers, clear answers, which means it was probably a strategy to excite the Marijuana constituency and then leave them hanging there and push them out of the mainstream, because the support we had nationally was massive. And the number of people who would have contested for seats at the political level,
the MCAs, the
MPs, but you see, that was clearly not the intention. That was, you see, the intention was to gain political mileage quickly by most of these people who have no idea about anything marijuana.
I would like the way a lot of people were saying Wajakoya was just there, he was set there by somebody.
Yes, no, that one there's no doubt about.
It's similar to what Justina Wamai alikuwa anasema.
No, everything Justina Wamai said is actually true. I just don't want to repeat it. But what I pleaded with my former boss a few weeks ago, I asked him, why are you diluting? We are coming from a position where we have been so certain, so shattered, that why do you dilute it by just making chants? Teach. Teach.
Educate.
Yes, educate. Make your point. And that's what we're saying. If today there was any group that wants to speak about this thing, I think the solution to everything is on the table. Talking.
Prof, you sent a petition to the president asking him to release watu walishikwa na kuvuta bangi moja hii ndogo ndogo. How is it? What's the latest?
The president did not respond. They have not responded. I sent him the petition, I think, on around March 16th or 17th, asking him to release prisoners of cannabis. And I cited biblical authority throughout the letter, the positions of the Bible on cannabis, and also his role as a president of everybody,
including those.
Yeye ni president wa watu wa bangi na wale watu si wa bangi wote, hata wazimu ambao wako nini kwa mabus stop, yeye ndio president wao, hata machokora, yeye ndio president wao. So you cannot dissuade mtoto wangu ni mbaya kwa sababu ya hii na huyu ni wasikize wote.
Prof, as we wrap up this conversation, Kev, it's 59. How can you define William Ruto's presidency?
William Ruto's presidency?
Briefly,
oh, wow. That's an unseen. Ruto's presidency, Ruto needs to define his presidency by the future and not history. So far, the presidency has been so far up to this level. It's being defined by a history that we don't like, that we're running away from. We want a president who will shine the light on our future. And I am saying,
in 5 seconds,
yes, if there was ever a day that the president can come, I say that I have come to you, my people,
now
as the son of the land. I know tomorrow I will not be president, but I want to leave an eternal legacy with you.
Thank you so much.
Let
Prof.
us sit down
and talk.
Not to those people, but to the whole poloi.
Asante sana, Prof. GWADA, that is an activist and Pan-Africanist. Imekuwa deadly. Right now, time for the news. 2 kamili. Tuende kazi.